Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. And today on this episode, I'm going to be talking about some books that I've read and recommend. And yes, I know I said that I don't particularly like to watch other book YouTubers, but as I'm an author, you probably want to know what I'm reading or listening to. The other thing is Bo, our cat, has got fleas. So myself and Jamie are not particularly happy. I know it's not his fault, but we spent most of last evening spraying the house down, putting some ointment on him, heading to all the shops to getting bits and bobs to get rid of it. And he's got a collar on, which he hates. I've also been defleeing him since I got back from work this afternoon. He's in not a particularly good mood with us, but yeah, it's not our fault and it's not his fault. So on a plus, the house is really nice and clean, which is surprising since it has been a mess since we've been doing it. But hey, let's talk about something which is much nicer, which is books. I'm just going to pin this on me so I can actually pick the books up and show you whilst I'm doing this. Hopefully that works. Right, so I think if you have watched my to be read reading journal, you would have noticed that I used a couple of these books as an example of what to add to your reading journal and how you get the images into there. So here we have them. I'm not sure these are going to turn out back to front. So we've got Andre Ackerman. I think that's how you say his name. And this is The Gentleman from Peru, recommended to me by the ladies in Leamington Spa Waterstones. Very short story, amazing book cover, gorgeous book cover. Unusual writing, it's quite, I think it's quite obvious what's going to happen. And I don't know if that's because I write myself, so I know where all the plot lines are going or what, but yeah, I think it's still a really nice book, so I would recommend. It is a hardback, so I'd say it was quite expensive for how short it is. It's $12.99, but it is gorgeous. It's a sweet novel, and if you want to add to your reading challenge, if you're doing something like a Goodreads reading challenge for 2024, it's a great way to shoe in another book. But I would be interested in what else he has written, because honestly, I've not come across his stuff before. Another recent book I read is The Fury by Alexander Michaelides. I think he's of Greek descent, so I'm really sorry if I just absolutely destroyed his name. Apologies. It is good and it is funny, and the lead character in it, I wouldn't say they were the protagonist, but they are very pompous, and it does give me vibes of Agatha Christie's The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So if you've read that, then you'll know what this is about from the offstart. So I liked it. If I hadn't read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, then I probably would have thought it was brilliant. But yeah, I think, when you see all the different reviews from other authors, such as The Undisputed Master of the Twist and Deliciously Twisty and Fiendishly Clever, I don't think it is, sorry. Now this book, Greta and Valdin, I can say quite honestly is the funniest book I've read this year, and I'm not just saying that because I am a Pacific Islander just like the author, but it is really funny. Rebecca K. Riley, your writing is just perfect. I snorted with laughter reading this and woke my partner up a few times, but it was well worth it. For those of you who haven't read the book, you don't need to be part of, the LGBTQ plus community to read this. It's about a dysfunctional family, a brother and a sister, Greta and Valdin, that live together, and also their elder brother who's, you know, had a bit of a blip as a kid, I would say, and their parents who are also dysfunctional. And I think what appeals to me about this is obviously, one, the humour. It's very Pacific Island humour that comes across, and it's done very, very well. It's just lovely. There are, you know, there's a few broken hearts in it, but it's done with a lot of wit, and just all the characters are wonderful. Some of the things that they do are questionable, but again, they're just dysfunctional but lovable. And Greta, I would say, is my favourite. And I would say as well, I think what's really nice as a fellow Pacific Islander and Pacific author, but also someone who is mixed, it's nice to see characters in a book as part of a family that are also of mixed heritage, and learning to grow up with that and mix between the two cultures. So this is honestly just done brilliantly. So if you've not read Rebecca K. Riley, please do. This book is just brilliant. And no one can borrow that book. It's fine, get your own, because I'm basically making a collection of Pacific Islander authors, and that's what my bookshelf is going to be eventually. So if you want that book, spend your money, pay the author, because she's worth it. And now what I'm going to do is take you through two of my recent book hauls. One of them was at a place called Astley's Book Farm and Coffee Shop, which is about 30 minutes up the road from me. And it is literally a warren of barns just full of books, and it's like a giant library in there. What's also really good is it obviously has a coffee shop, which means it's got lots of cakes. So you can turn up, have like a sausage batch, which is basically a sandwich, go look around the bookstore, get lots of really good bargains, which I did, and I'll tell you what I got. And then once you've paid for your books, go back into the cafe, buy yourself a slice and take it home with you, and have it with a coffee at home, or just have a cake there, you know, back in the coffee cafe. And yeah, it's just wonderful. So that's one of the book hauls, and the other one was my book haul from Leamington Spa, Waterstones. So I'll show you those now. If I can figure out how to do it, I will put up a split screen so you can see what it's like inside of the Astley Book Farm and Coffee Shop, because it's brilliant. So here's the bag of my goodies. I took my parents there, and yeah, my dad bought, I think, like 5 books for $5. And you know, they're not rubbish books, these are good books. So I ended up, and not deliberately, buying lots of true crime and spooky books just in time for Halloween, but I have not got around to reading any of these. So first one was Violation, which is based on a true story. Yeah, I've heard about this one. I think I said on my TikTok that I'd heard about this listening to, I think, My Favourite Murder, but that one was £1. So I'm looking forward to reading that one. Obviously, it's not a great subject, but I do love a bit of true crime and justice. Horror in the Museum, really cool book cover. This one's by H.P. Lovecraft, and these are short stories. I believe some of these stories he's actually taken from other authors and rewritten them. But yeah, I think most of this collection is just lots of tales of mystery and the supernatural. So it's probably going to freak me out and I might have to put it down, but I couldn't resist the book cover. That one, how much was this? I think it says it in the front of the cover. But usually when you go into this shop, you'll see like a price on the cover. So it's not normally what is on the back. So this was only like a couple of quid, I think. I'll tell you how much the whole book was. The Suspicions of Mr. Witcher or the Murder at Road Hill House, which I have read before, and Kate Summerscale is just brilliant at bringing old historical true crime to life. This one is very creepy, and they made it into, I think it was an ITV detective story. It's just really good. The reason why I bought it again is because I lent this copy to somebody and I've never seen it again. I don't know who I lent it to, so this one isn't going anywhere. This one's mine. And I also recently read her The Wicked Boy by Kate Summerscale, which again is another historical true crime set in the Edwardian period, I believe, in London, where these two boys kill their mother and go off and watch the cricket. But it's quite, obviously it's a tragic story. It's also a sad story for the two boys, and they do go on, especially the eldest one, to kind of have redemption and go on to do good in the world, even though what they did was horrific. So I recommend that one, recommend this one, and I'll tell you about another one that I'm reading of hers currently as well. And then this one I picked up, The Death of a Boar, by MC Beaton, which is the Hamish Macbeth murder mystery, and the author of the best-selling Agatha Raisin series. It just looks funny. So yeah, it looks and it reads funny. So, and it looks like it's a quick read as well. So I thought I might actually just read that. It doesn't need, well, none of these need to be October Halloween reads, but you know what I mean. I also bought Frankenstein, which was obviously a very short read. I just didn't get into it at the time, so I might go back to that next year. But I got that from the shop, and all of those books, all 5 shops, I don't know where I've put the Frankenstein one to show you, they were all £17. But again, my dad went in and he got 5 books for £5. So there are loads and loads of books of all genres, and they've got another barn which is like a bargain barn where you can go in and get books for like 50p, so you can get quite a haul in there. So I highly recommend it. Highly recommend the cake and the sausage and bacon sandwiches, so definitely go there. Okay, so my second book haul is of course Waterstones, which is a book lover's wet dream basically, although it can be very expensive. I did go in there and spend way too much money. So books I bought are this absolutely gorgeous book, and I think it's been nominated for the Man Booker Prize, I believe. I'll correct that up here, that's not the one. Percival Everett James. This cover is just absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to read it. So it might be a read for the new year, because I've got a few left on my list that I need to do that I want to read this year. But yeah, decided not to listen to the audio. I wanted to get the book. So not read that, and looking forward to it. The next book is Before Your Memory Fades. I think this one is the 3rd book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. The first 2 books are brilliant. This one I think moves into the mountains, and then there's a 4th book after this. I thought, I didn't realise he'd actually written another 2 books. So yeah, when I saw this, I thought, well, I've got to buy this one as well. So that's on my list. Again, probably read this next year. And then this is the book that is another one of Kate Summerscale's, and this is The Peep Show, which is based on another classic true crime set in the 1950s, I believe. Yeah, 1953. So again, it's you might have heard this. It's all to do with a charming ex-police officer called Reg Christie, who killed his wife and some sex workers, and he hid them in the walls of his house and in the garden. So delightful man. absolute creep. Some of the stuff that when you listen to true crime podcasts and stuff that they don't cover, she does cover in here. So just be warned, it does go into detail. And she goes into lots of details in all her true crime books, but she's very, she isn't gory about it. And then Waterstones, I also bought The Gentleman of Peru at the same time. And yeah, so that they are my two book hauls. But I also bought another book that wasn't from either of those shops. Now, if you live in the UK and you don't have a lot of money to spend on books, obviously going to the library is the best place, or buying ebooks. But if you want something physical in your hand, it's always worth finding a good bargain bookshop or bookstore or place like Astley's Book Farm and Coffee Shop, or go into a local supermarket. Now, they have some really good book bargains. A lot of them are paperbacks, which is fine. But if you go into Sainsbury's, and I am not sponsored by Sainsbury's, but they do very good deals on hardbacks. They drop them like half the price. And the same again with paperbacks. Instead of paying like £20 and over for hardback, you can get a hardback for a tenner or less sometimes. And the same with paperbacks, you can get them for like £4.99. And new releases, they're not old releases, like you might have to wait a week or two, but they're pretty new. And the one I decided not to buy in Waterstones because I spent so much money, I then bought because I popped into Sainsbury's for something else. Thought I'll go have a quick look in Sainsbury's and see what other books are on offer. Was this one, which is Want by Gillian Anderson. Now, she hasn't written all of these stories. These are a collection of stories submitted anonymously and collected by Gillian Anderson, as it says on there. It says on the book. A really gorgeous cover. And it's basically about women and their fantasies. And I thought, you know what? I really want to read that because you can always learn, can't you? But yeah, another gorgeous book cover. And there must be a thing about pink at the minute because slightly different colours, but very, very cool. A lot of books for me to get through. Been spending a lot of my money on books, but hey, better than doing anything dodgy. If you want to have see some more recommendations from me, let me know in the comments down below. You can also follow me on Goodreads, and there's a link down below as well to see what I've been reading this year. And I will do another video on my reading challenge. I have read 36 at the minute. I am, along with the Peep Show by Kate Summerscale, I'm also listening to Joe Dispenza's Being Supernatural on audio. So that'll be those two combined will be 38, and then I need to do a couple more and I've hit my reading challenge for the year, which is 40. And then I'll decide how many I'm going to read next year, because that is going to be difficult because I will be writing next year and I will be finishing off the rest of the BENAGHAR series. So if you liked those short reviews, I'm not into people that want to fluff about and, you know, just talk nonsense about books. You either like it or you don't, and, you know, just there's no need for a long-winded conversation about it. I also want to say, though I said I don't really watch other booktubers, there are two that I highly recommend. Actually, I'm not sure if one of them is a booktuber, but she definitely has a podcast. So if you are wanting to look at reading more Indigenous books, or specifically Pacific Island books, then I highly recommend Reads with Rosa, who has a podcast, and that's her handle on Instagram as well. And she interviews lots of Pacific Islander authors, and I had the honour of going on her podcast a few series ago. If you want to listen to that, there's a link on my website under the blogs. I'll put a link down below as well. She's fantastic and just promotes Pacific Islanders. Like, she doesn't need to do that, but it's just amazing, the time, her own time that she puts into doing that, and being generous enough to give us all a platform to showcase our work. The other one is Polynesian Reader, who is on YouTube, and she is on Instagram and on TikTok, I believe, as well. And her book recommendations, especially for Indigenous and Pacific Islander authors, is just spot on. So if you're looking to expand your reading and you want to expand it into another culture or cultures, because it's not just Polynesia, it is Micronesia, and it is also Melanesia that the Pacific Islanders are from. We are Pacific Islanders, all three of us. So yeah, head on over to those two girls. I will put their links down below, and cards if YouTube lets me do it on this video. And that's it for today's episode. Next time, I think I'm probably going to do an episode on my health at 40, because I've got a lot of work to do to get fit. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Have a good week. Bye.